Get our other guests in here and keep talking about it. Shakira, when you look at the FBI analysis of the video that shows the shooting death of this 12-year-old Tamir Rice and the officers, and of course we know that the gun now was fake. You've got the gun pointing at him. Again, the officers did not know the gun was fake. I think we have an image we might be able to bring up here just to show you how similar it looks to a real gun. What do you say?
Well, it's really an indictment on the entire system. Every single player in our criminal justice system has to face the fact that the entire world is watching. The fact is that this country incarcerates and criminalizes more people than any other country in the world, that we have issues such as this where we have many children and adults, people of color who are disproportionately and negatively impacted by the criminal justice system. And I want to take a moment to give and lend my condolences to the Rice family, not only for the loss of their son, but for being yet another family that feels the sting of injustice in this country within our criminal justice system.
Philip Holloway, to you. You wrote an interesting op-ed about this on CNN.com, and in the middle of it here, you cite a Supreme Court case. You cite Graham versus Connor. Walk me through why you think that this shooting, this death, is justified.
Good morning, Poppy, and likewise I extend my condolences to the family of Tamir Rice, and I would respectfully disagree with Mr. Robinson. The point of a grand jury is not necessarily to bring a case to trial, but it's to act as a filter so that cases that don't need to be brought to court don't get there, and when they do need to be brought to court, that they do get there. So it's a screening mechanism. But yes, I do think, and I don't necessarily want to use the word justified, I would choose the words non-criminal or not unlawful. Graham versus Connor says that police use of force cases must be analyzed from a perspective of objective reasonableness. Poppy, we do not have the benefit, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, of Monday morning quarterbacking these things. We must look at them from the perspective of the officers who were on the scene with the sometimes wrong or limited or inaccurate information that they may have. And we know in this case they had some inaccurate information. They had some incomplete information. Under the totality of the circumstances, even if the police didn't do everything perfectly, Graham versus Connor leads us to the necessary conclusion that the grand jury got it right.
Shakira, to you. I do think it's also important to talk about the totality here, and you've got the person who took the 911 call failing to relay two critical pieces of information to these officers: that the gun was, quote, probably fake, according to the witness, and that this was probably a juvenile. Do you think that there should be accountability legally? Can there be accountability for the 911 operator who took, the dispatcher who took the call and then relayed it to the officers?
There should be accountability for everybody involved in the system, and that's really what the problem is. The fact that we have such a low bar for officers who engage in misconduct, whether that is engaging in excessive use of force or sexual assaults or just general misconduct. We have a very low bar of accountability for officers or public officials in general. We as citizens and residents who pay taxes, who pay into these systems, have to be in a position to hold all public officials accountable, whether they are elected or appointed. And that is not the case. That is not the case. And we need to change that. The fact is that not only are people in this country watching these videos, but people around the world are watching these videos in the context of knowing that this country's definition of justice and its rhetoric of justice is not really meeting the belief of justice, the intention of justice. That is not actually what is happening in this country.
Philip Holloway, to you. The family, at the end of the statement that they released, they call for the Department of Justice to step in. Can you talk us through legally where this case could go now? Because I do want to point out both of these officers do still remain on restricted duty until the internal administrative process is completed. But legally, what can the family do, if anything?
Well, the family, of course, has the option of a civil case, and in that realm, I think they may very well get some relief, because I do believe there was some negligence on the part of the department at large, in particular with the dispatcher. As for the Justice Department, Poppy, I think it's important that the Justice Department look at this, and I believe that it's important that we have another look at it. I think that the federal government taking a look at this, and if they come to the same conclusion, then I think that may very well put an end to the overall question. But that being said, it's much more difficult to bring federal criminal charges in these kind of cases than it is state cases. And at the end of the day, we're still going to be left with this same investigative report and the same evidence that was obtained by the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office, an independent agency that did this investigation.
Rashad, final word to you.
I think what this says is that moving forward, we've got to do more work politically, not just at the presidential level around criminal justice, not just at the congressional level, but we've got to hold prosecutors accountable. We've got to build the type of movement that holds prosecutors accountable to change not just the written rules, but the unwritten rules that say that when black young people are killed, that folks will be accountable, that police officers will be accountable. Those police officers pulled out their gun in less than 2 seconds. And then they claimed that they told him 3 times to put the gun away. They told him 3 times to respond. At the minimum, these police officers should be held accountable for not telling the truth, but nothing. And this family is left with answers, unanswered questions about what happened to their young person. The community is left with unanswered questions, and the community and the country at large is left with the idea that police officers will not be held accountable when they hurt and harm young black people in this country, and that has got to change.
Rashad, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Shakira Diaz, to you, Philip Holloway as well.
Thanks,
Still